I'm here to speak about Brain Plus. And unfortunately, it's so today that most of us know somebody in our family or friend circles who are suffering from some type of dementia. Today, it's a global problem with 50 million people being diagnosed with dementia, and that will triple to 150 million over the next couple of decades. 1 out of 3 people in the United States die with a form of dementia disease, and one of the big problems is that we haven't really got any effective treatments for it today. And this is where digital therapeutics can play a very important role. Digital therapeutics means software that can treat, manage, or prevent a disease. And it means that it goes through similar rigorous clinical validation that you would do for a drug or a medical device, do publications, and also become certified through the regulatory systems and processes. It has, of course, additional advantages. The fact that you collect a lot of data means that you can make more targeted and personalized interventions and treatments. It also means that you can deliver things remotely into people's homes, and you can also do post-market surveillance and real-world evidence collection to make better treatments. Brain Plus has as a mission to make effective dementia treatments available to everyone in need as digital therapeutics. Our primary clinical target is to counteract cognitive decline, which means that the loss of the ability to remember things, to focus, and to learn new things. So this is what our therapeutics are developed for. On top of that, we're looking for improvements in quality of life, both for the patient and for the caregiver, and our long-term clinical and health economics targets will be also to see delay in the progression from one stage of the disease to the next, for example, from mild dementia to moderate dementia, or from the earlier phases like mild cognitive impairment to an actual dementia diagnosis. A bit about the team. It's a very strong management team. Just a few highlights. Our Chief Science and Innovation Officer, Simon Nielsen, used to run innovation and clinical development at Coloplast, one of Denmark's largest medtech companies, also a global leader within their field. Paula Petsu she built our Chief Technology Officer. She single-handedly built the entire digital health department at Lund Pharma and put digital therapeutics on the map there. Then, in interest of time, our board, we have our vice chair is Lars Ternay, senior partner at Nordic Capital, one of the big private equity companies. Hannelette Hillman is CFO at Nanovi, and some of you may know Zealand Pharma and Neurosearch, where she was head of IR, some of the successful Danish public companies. Jonas Nielsen just stepped back to make room for 3 new board members that joined us in August. And this is a great validation for us. Anders Hafstrand is a very experienced executive in biotech companies and pharma companies, including Pfizer, where he was leading commercial operations, and he's been doing that all over the world. Now he's doing board work, and he's our new chairman. Johan Ludman is one of the foremost experts on Alzheimer's in the world. He is leading up he's the head of R&D at Lund Pharma, one of the big companies within neurodegenerative disease. Betül is the head of digital strategy at Sir Rose Group, which is the largest online pharmacy in Europe. She used to be the chief digital officer at Novartis Pharma and at Ferring Pharma. So really a highly competent board in the area that we are operational in. We are a 20-person team sitting in Copenhagen, the total team. We develop all our technologies in partnerships. We're working with 7 different universities. Last December, we partnered with Roche through their German daughter company, Rox Health, to bring one of our first products to the German market. We have the big patient organizations like Alzheimer Europe and Alzheimer's Disease International as part of our projects. Before I come to the products, a little bit on digital therapeutics. Now you can you have national reimbursement pathways for digital therapeutics like you would with regular medicine. So especially in Germany, there are two pathways for that. On average, you're getting 400 euros for a treatment, which lasts anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks. In the United States, we also see higher prices. $1,000 is an average payment per treatment, but you can see payments of up to $2,500 for a treatment. The total addressable market for dementia, for digital dementia treatments, we estimate at $5 billion. It's going to triple to $15 to $20 billion over the next 10 to 15 years. You compare that to the most mature digital market For therapies, it is digital diabetes management. That's already over $6 billion today, projected to grow to $30 billion within the next 6 years. Diabetes costs around $800 billion a year on a global scale. Dementia is already more expensive than that. Costs $1,000 billion, about 1% of total global GDP. It's one of the most expensive diseases in the world. So there's a very large unmet clinical need. Coming to the products and therapies, the first one that we're working with, and it will be the first one that we're going to put on the market, is called cognitive stimulation therapy. This was invented at the University College of London by a professor called Amy Spector. It is a form of advanced talk therapy. It moves people 2 points on a mini-mental state examination, which is one of the most globally used cognition scales within dementia. Based on this, it has become the recommended standard of care in the United Kingdom and in Germany. It is being adopted in 35 countries today. There's over 100 RCTs on this therapeutic method. One Cochrane review is out, and there's another one coming out later this year. So it's a very strong method in terms of evidence. What we're doing is that we have been working with the global KOLs on this to make a digitalized version of it. The first product, called the Therapist Companion, will be supporting the way this therapy is being delivered today. Today it's being delivered in groups. People come into the clinic, they have a trained therapist there. But consistency of delivery matters. So we're creating a digital tool that will support the therapist in doing this. And it will also make it more consistent, the delivery. It also allows this delivery to happen online. All of a sudden, we can reach patient with this therapeutic method online. But where it really starts becoming interesting is the fact that we can bring this into people's homes. So the second product will be allowing people to do this therapy at home with a loved one. So you don't even need a trained therapist. This can be a family member doing it with a person with dementia. Good. Then we're going to skip the science today in the interest of time. We have a couple of other technologies that we're working with. Computerized cognitive training is a bit more akin to the fitness center for the mind. That's more like a drug development type approach where we're targeting a very specific pathway in the brain, the implicit learning channel, which is intact in people with Alzheimer's disease. So this is based on something called differential outcome procedure, and this is targeting people with mild cognitive impairment. A third technology we're working with is a memory test for early preclinical detection of Alzheimer's disease, originally developed at the Oxford University. This method can detect the very early signs of cognitive decline in Alzheimer's disease. We have co-developed that further with them, made it available on tablets and for remote testing and for scalable testing, and are now revalidating this test. So if you look across the disease spectrum here in terms of where our therapies are targeted, the first one, cognitive stimulation therapy, is indicated for mild to moderate dementia. The second one is indicated for mild cognitive impairment, and the memory test will initially be used in combination with the therapies for monitoring of the symptoms and for improvements, and eventually, as we get more data, it can be used in the early stages for screening and early detection. We have already, or rather our academic and clinical partners have already concluded 4 clinical trials showing positive results with these 3 different technologies. We have a number of other fully funded trials ongoing that will bring us more data on these 3 technologies. These are all in the pilot and proof of concept stages. The next stage for us in terms of the clinical development path is to do a larger 200 to 300 person study with a cognitive stimulation therapy in order to get regulatory approval in Europe as a software, as a medical device, it's called in Europe. The same it's called in the United States, and also to get reimbursement in Germany as the first market, but also this data can be used for other markets for reimbursement. In terms of the way we're going to go to market, like I said, while we're doing clinical development, we can actually launch the first product. And we announced in August that we are going to launch the first product already this year in Denmark, a couple of years ahead of plan. This will be launched as a non-medical device because it is supporting the therapists. We can do this. One of the reasons we're doing this is we will get to revenue fast. We're de-risking the case. We'll get a lot of data, and we will be locking in the clinical community to use our service. So that's why we're also partnered and working closely with the global KOLs for this therapy form, which is set to become the leading global standard for how we do non-pharmacological dementia therapy. So this is really the type of wave that we are riding on. The next market will be the German market, where we're collaborating with Roche there, as I said, to bring that product to the German market. Following closely in the footsteps will be the second product that I was mentioning that will allow people to do this therapy in their own home. And then we'll be expanding to other markets, including the UK and the US as high priority markets for us. And also we have a lot of partnerships in research partnerships here in Sweden, including Gothenburg University, HealthCap Research Institutes of Sweden. So we're also looking to expand into the Nordic markets. And then while we're doing that expansion globally with the first couple of product versions, we'll be doing the clinical development to lift the home version into the prescription digital therapeutic stage, where we get these higher reimbursement levels, both in Europe and the United States. And that's where it becomes more like what you're more familiar with, like a classical drug business case. There's a lot of things happening in the digital therapeutic space. We have a lot of partner dialogues with big pharma, and they're interested in this because they have drugs in the pipeline for Alzheimer's disease, and they're looking for combination products. So that is one of the reasons there's a very big opportunity for us here, and that's also why Roche partnered with us in this space. So we see also already now in digital therapeutics licensing deals, where the biggest one we've seen so far was $500 million licensing a schizophrenia digital therapeutic to Boehringer Ingelheim. And it's the same type of way that we are going to scale as a company, through partnerships with pharmaceutical companies, with the hearing aid companies and others. So generally, just wrapping up, very large unmet clinical need. Digital therapeutics will become one of the future ways we do healthcare, especially in chronic diseases and in central nervous system diseases. We are having a unique therapy with very strong evidence base, where we're working uniquely positioned with the KOLs to bring this global and to start commercializing that. Very experienced management team and board, and we're basically ready to start the commercialization journey now. Thank you very much for your attention.
I do realize that we haven't much time, but what is this? Is it sort of a Jeopardy, or is it a game?
It's a fair question. It is a form of advanced talk therapy. So really, you have a therapist that is taking people through a number of topics, and the way the questions are asked here is something that is designed in a way so people, they use their retrospective memory, they use their prospective memory, they do what is so-called orientation. They have to orientate themselves in time, space, they have to make assessments and so forth. So it's really designed to stimulate broadly the brain. So Jeopardy is a much more narrow, you can say, version of something like that. This is a more broad version, and it has some reminiscence therapy elements in it as well. And because it's so structured and because it is built this way, it actually has the effect where something like Jeopardy would not be able to show the same clinical effect. So here there's a measurable clinical effect. You do it 7 weeks. The original dosage is 2 times a week, 30 to 40 minutes, 7 weeks. After that, you see this effect of moving 2 points on a mini-mental state examination, which corresponds to 2 points. The mild stage is 4 points. The medium stage is 4 points. Severe stage is 4 points on that scale. So you're really moving people 2 points on that scale with this therapy. But that is what it is. Basically an advanced social interaction and talk therapy, just enabling you to use different parts of your memory and attention system.
Does it differ one day from the other?
Not in terms of structure and principle, just in terms of content. Yeah.
So we have some more questions here.
Otherwise, I'm here in the break after. So.
Sorry about that. I raised my hand back here. I have actually, it's maybe a longer question. So I have 2 sets of elderly parents, one in the U.S., one here in Sweden. They all have dementia. They all have various stages of dementia, and their treatment is very different. In this country, it's more proactive, believe it or not. In the United States, we have to pay for everything out of pocket.
Yeah.
And it's at a point now where it's so expensive that we can't do anything. How are you going to approach these, markets? I mean, how would you approach the U.S. market? We go to the doctor. They don't prescribe anything. They just basically say you need to tell someone to tell your dad to take a shower. You know.
Yeah. So that's a fairly broad question, but let's take the U.S. as an example, because there, I mean, the ultimate end goal there would be large reimbursement coverage for both the use of the healthcare professionals' time, and there are actually CBT codes for that in the United States now for digital therapeutics. So the doctor would be paid to spend that time doing this. So that's one of the ways. But the other ways is simply to get like larger coverage for people to be able to take this home and use it themselves, and you would get reimbursed for actually getting access to the therapy. And we are seeing large-scale reimbursement of digital therapeutics in the United States now. Orexo has a digital therapeutic for depression, and that just got coverage for 15 million lives in the United States. So that would be like, that's the goal in the United States, to go there. Before we do that, we're going to bring the first product in there just directly to the therapist. That's more like a direct B2B subscription software as a service model, but that's only a stepping stone to get the large scale, like classic reimbursement type coverage. Exactly, but that's because there are no therapies that are available for it, right? This is actually a therapy that works, and so there are several ways as well. One way that we think this can be made available virtually as well. So if you were willing to pay out of pocket for something like this, it could be made available because it can be delivered remotely online from anywhere. So you could have one central location in the United States that covers the entire United States in terms of offering this. So, like you saw here, we have very good relationships with the patient organizations and the KOLs. So I think that's one of the primary ways, is you have to win over the hearts of the ones that are in contact with all the patients out there. So that's just one part of the answer, which is a very large answer as well. Yeah, you're welcome.
What's the situation with IP rights?
So, on the two technologies, the two last technologies that I showed you, those are patentable. So we're working there with a law firm to work with patent filings on those two. And generally, we are working closely with some of the like originators of some of these things here. And so, but we always make sure that we have the IP rights and we have the right to do the patenting and to commercialize, etc. For something like cognitive stimulation therapy, that is something that's been out there for a while. So the basic therapy is not patentable as such. You have design protection, copyrights, etc. Later on, we will combine that with some of our patentable technologies. That's one of the ways. But the other and more important way, I think, for something like this is working closely with the KOLs and the clinical community. That's why we want to get out there fast and basically lock them into this, so we are the preferred ones. We are the pioneers here in this field, especially with this therapy and in Alzheimer's disease. So right now it's very blue ocean there. Of course, competition will come later on, but we do have a first move advantage to become the preferred therapeutic for that. So that's important. That's another way we have to move fast in this as well. Yeah.
I'm gonna ask, do you see your technology to be a potential therapy for other neurological indications like stroke or?
Yeah, so generally, like I said, the target we have is cognitive decline. And so some of these technologies that we develop here, they're relevant in other indications as well, because it's a similar type of cognitive problems that you see, like lack of attentional control, problems with episodic memory, etc. And so there is transferability there, and you can use the same type of interventions. We just want to focus on basically becoming successful in Alzheimer's and dementia and the related disease stages before we start moving into others. But out-licensing our therapeutic technologies to others is a real option there as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming.
You're very welcome.